Welcome back, Knuckleheads. I am Lupine Fiasco, and this is Daily FaB Gameplay. For anyone who's new to the channel, welcome to the jungle. What we do here is review replays of games that I played on the Talishar client days or weeks ago, after enough time has passed, that I lose my bias and can more objectively judge the quality of my play. I will talk through turn cycles and give my thoughts on the line I would take now, compared to the line I took then at the time of recording. We either reinforce good play patterns or identify areas for improvement for the purpose of tightening and improving our gameplay in the future to take down paper events like the upcoming Skirmish and ProQuest season, and, most importantly, walk away with that shiny cardboard. If you'd like to check out the list I'm playing here or try it for yourself on Talishar, there is a FaB deck link in the video description below. While you're down there, if you haven't already done so, please consider a YouTube subscription. It is the best free way to support me and to make sure that you see daily FaB gameplay in your video feed 5 days a week. The best paid way to support me is through Patreon, and a Patreon link is also in the video description. A Patreon subscription will get you access to the DFG Discord and the shiny cardboard Talishar card back. At higher tiers, your name will appear in every DFG video, and you could receive bonus DFG content every week. Daily FaB gameplay will always be free 5 days a week, so those who can afford to patronize me, I truly appreciate it. I also now am on X, and if you would like to see memes, inane comments, and the occasional self-promotion, head on over to X and follow Lupine Fiasco. Now, without further ado, let's talk about our sideboard and about our game plan. We win the die roll, and against new and every assassin, we want to go second. It's going to let us block out damage on turn 0 and dodge any sort of hand disruption. Siren's Call, Surgical Extraction are both a lot worse on turn 0 when we just draw up at the end of our opponent's turn. You can see here that we are using the sideboard changes to new that I outlined in Monday's deck tech. So right off the bat, we're running Fandal Spring Tunic instead of Savage Sash. In theory, that's going to give us more value every 3 turns because our 2-card Wild Ride or Pulping turns, or our Agility, Bare Fangs, Swing Big, Pack Hunt turns look a lot better. That we can keep 2 cards after new finishes with her turn, pitch a blue, play a 2-cost 6 with Go Again, then use our Tunic to work a Mandible Claw into the turn as well. Our 3-card hands get a lot better if we can pitch a blue, then discard a pitch a blue to Mandible Claw, then discard a Wind-Up to give the Claw Go Again. We float a resource and can use Tunic to Bare Fang, Swing Big, Pack Hunt, whatever. The idea behind cutting Sash is that new is running enough reactions that we can never really block with Sash safely. For one thing, Scale Peeler is going to turn our 2-block Sash into 1-block Sash, and if we do block with 1-block Sash, Temper will cause it to break at the end of the combat chain. So if new is opening every turn with Scale Peeler, we have to commit to putting a full piece of armor in front of the dagger or a card from hand, neither of which we really want to do. So right off the bat, having to block Scale Peeler every turn it happens makes Savage Sash a lot worse. At the same time, Shred is a card that exists. It's a lot less common in new than it is in Uzuri, but I have seen new play Shred, and if we block an attack with Savage Sash and Sash then gets shredded, Temper causes it to break and we lose the Sash. So if our game plan is to avoid blocking new for really as long as we can, unless our hand lines up for it, Sash puts us into a position where we are more incentivized to block to get value out of our equipment, whereas Tunic is going to give us more offensive value without having to worry about blocking first. The only other significant change we're making to the 60 is that we are cutting Yellow Clash of Might, we're putting in No Fear, we are also cutting Blue Riled Up and Smash Instinct. so that we can fit yellow Bear Fangs and the weakest link. We're not expecting the weakest link to get a ton of value in this matchup. New does have some Transcend Instants, but for the most part, all of her cards either block 2 or 3. They have block value. The idea is just we are cutting blues so that New has fewer options for when she pitches chi to her hero power. At this point, we have 17 blues in our list. 6 of them are very bad for New to play on offense, very restrictive in how often she can do it, being Wrecker Romp and Run Roughshod. 6 other blues we can discard at instant speed, those being our Agile and Mighty Windup. So if we get hit with a Siren's Call, or maybe even a Surgical Extraction, depending on what the rest of our hand looks like, we can discard our blue as a response so that we don't get punished for holding onto a blue. Outside of that, we have our Assault and Battery and our Pack Call. But we do need to play a density of blues in our deck so that we can hopefully get our Wild Ride, Mandible Claw finisher lines, and we are going to need blues to pay for that. Overall, we are not trying to block New. We want to outvalue her. We are expecting that she's going to be touching our cards and taking cards from our hand and forcing us to block with them, or just banishing them entirely. And the more often that you block against New, the more often you will find yourself without an actual thing to do on your turn, because New will have taken enough of your cards, either through your own blocks or her reactions. So we really don't want to block. We want to outvalue New. Things that we're going to look at specifically in this game are how I could have used my Tunic better, or if I could have used it at all. You'll find that by the end of this game, I've used Tunic exactly once, and I promise you the game does go longer than 6 turns. So in theory, I could have used it multiple times, and I just don't remember seeing an opportunity to do so, so let's pay attention to that. Outside of the Tunic thing, we're just paying attention to good play, optimal lines, and going from there. Our opening hand here is not bad. If New just passes the turn, then we have a solid line, and if New does something with her turn, then we have three blocks. Opening up with Scale Peeler, we do want to block this because it is turn 0. Seeing New pitch Justinic and Siren's Call has got to feel pretty good. Those are one copy of each card that we don't have to worry about for basically the duration of the game. If this game does go to, turn 16, we'll see those 2 cards again if New is drawing 4 cards a turn, but for all intents and purposes, they are just gone now. As far as how to block the Scale Peeler, I believe it should be Send Packing. I'm a little hesitant to block with a yellow as opposed to a red. If we draw a blue, then we can play our Pulping. But if we draw a red, we're a little more limited in how we play out our turn. But I do think that Send Packing is correct. We cannot block with Pulping. I would like to keep Beast Within to pair with the Pulping. And E-Strike at minimum is a turn extender. If we draw a red, then we can E-Strike, 5-go again, pitch Beast Within, and play whatever our 2-cost red is. So I think Send Packing is the correct block. I understand why I'm blocking with E-Strike, because I want to hold on to a yellow, so that at minimum, I can pitch yellow to play Pulping. But if we hold on to that E-Strike, then we get a turn extender, and we are less punished if New has a defense reaction in Arsenal. We draw blue, we're going to open with Pulping, pitch our Run Roughshod, hope to discard this Beast Within, and see what our turn looks like after that. Good start so far. Pulping attacks for 6 with Go Again Dominate, we make a Might. No block so far, but New plays defense reaction out of Arsenal, setting up the top of the deck for Sink Below from hand. So we do get punished for not having that E-Strike. We take a massive intellect penalty, and we even lost a life for the trouble. Instead, we do get 2D reacts out of New, which not the worst thing in the world. Leave No Witnesses attacking for 4. We could put Bonebreaker and Leathers in front of this to cover the damage, but if New has Hiss or Venomous Bite, then we do just lose 4 armor block and our card in arsenal. Meanwhile, if we don't block, we do still have a decent enough turn lined up. We can open with pulping again, take the risk that New might have another D-react for her arsenal, but considering that she just played 2, we find that maybe it is unlikely that she can do it again. If we pitch our Wild Ride to play the pulping, there is a 66% chance that we hold onto our send packing that we can use to pitch to our weakest link, or if we drew another 2 cost 6 that we could pay for that. So declaring no blocks here takes a lot of the bite out of New's attack reactions, and if we lose our arsenal, we still have a 4-card play available to us. We are resistant to Siren's Call here. We don't have any blues, so I feel like we are better off just taking this damage. Also too, speaking about Apex and Leather's blocking for 4, New has Arousing Wave, so she can get this Leave No Witnesses up to 5. We would have to block with a card from hand, and as soon as you're blocking New with a card from hand, you are opening yourself up to getting blown out. We could have blocked with the weakest link and Bonebreaker if we wanted to cover 5 and hold on to this CNC. We would then be able to play Pulping, pitch our Wild Ride, and now have a 50% chance at being able to play our Command and Conquer by pitching a yellow. Problem with that line is if we draw a red and discard our send packing, then our turn just ends because we don't even have the resources to claw, and our Tunic is still 1 turn off of being online. I think it's just easier and a little more consistent to let the Leave No Witnesses hit. New takes an intellect penalty. She does generate 2 silver off of the Leave No Witnesses. That's going to come into play later. News do have meaningful ways to interact with that silver. But for our turn, we are just going to open up with a Pulping and hope that New didn't draw D-React number 3 to put in the arsenal. We trade Weakest Link for a Clash of Might, which is not ideal, but at least we get to follow the Pulping with a 2 for 6. I don't value putting Clash of Might in the arsenal and just sending Mandible Claw. New's Codex of Frailty is online. She has a Leave No Witnesses in discard, but Clash of Might in the arsenal is really not where I want to see it. So I like playing it there. Got a blue Double Trouble coming for 1. We can pretty safely expect that New is going to transcend this turn to react with Mask of Recurring Nightmares, get the Double Trouble online. Doesn't mean I want to block the Double Trouble. I'm really committed to not blocking New. And if Double Trouble does hit, we lose cards off the top of our deck, which we're not thrilled about, but really not the worst thing that could happen to us. New comes in with a Siren's Call. We don't have a way to dodge this, unfortunately. If we discard our Agile Windup, we still have a blue for New to take, and if New takes our Assault and Battery, then we just don't have a turn. We could use Tunic, pitch Pack Hunt, play CNC, but it's a lot easier if we just keep both of our blues, let New take one. We pitch the second blue to play a CNC and then arsenal a Pack Hunt. New does come in with the Path Well Traveled. It's unfortunate that Agile Windup only has 2 block because it on its own can't cover the 3 power from Double Trouble. We're going to banish a Pack Hunt. We still want to have a turn. We want to play CNC. It is, sort of on the table that New could have an arsenal here. And by banishing Pack Hunt, we don't give New fodder for her to throw at us with her hero power later. Take 1 from the Double Trouble. We're going to lose a Pulping and a Blood Rush. It's certainly not ideal. New Tunics and pitches E-Strike to Scale Peeler. This is a very interesting line New pitching the E-Strike to Scale Peeler when she has a card in hand tells me that she is 100% going to play Codex of Frailty, because if she had a less impactful 1-card hand, she could have just E-Striked for 7 using the action point. So if we are putting New on Codex, we know that she can Codex back Leave No Witnesses. We really don't have a good line after this Scale Peeler. We won't be able to cover the Leave No Witnesses with armor. We would have to block from hand, and we are giving up a card to the Codex. We could not say discard Command and Conquer, pick up an attack, block with armor, then pitch our blue to play the attack from Arsenal, because we would have to block with Assault and Battery. So we have 2 lines. The first is we let the Scale Peeler hit, we let New play Codex, we get something back that we don't care that New takes. There's a Beast Within in our discard that we can get back. New banishes it with Leave No Witnesses. Maybe she gets a silver off the top of our deck, but she doesn't get a silver from our arsenal. We discard Assault and Battery after picking up the Beast Within. We arsenal the Command and Conquer and pass the turn. Our other line is to block the Scale Peeler with Fleshback. New's turn ends. She arsenals Codex of Frailty. We play Command and Conquer for 7, and I think that is the best line. That's the line I would like to take. The fact that New gave me Arousing Wave and Undertow Stiletto so early really leaves her vulnerable to 7-power disruption, when that disruption also turns off her D-reacts. New will have 4 cards in hand and a Codex and Arsenal. To protect the Codex, she has to either give us 3 cards, or she has to give us 2 cards and Tunic. She could give us Mask, but either piece of equipment I'm really happy to get on turn 4. And if New blocks with 3 cards, she still has a line of Pitch a Blue, Dagger, Codex. But at that point, I have 4 cards in hand, I still have my armor, I'm in a much better position to defend a Codex line than I am right now. So if I'm making this call now, I am blocking Scale Peeler with the Flesh Bag, because I am 100% convinced that this card in New's hand is Codex of Frailty. Honestly, if it is anything else, that's fine too. I want my CNC to have a target, and I am convinced this is Codex just because of the E-Strike play. This line makes no sense. It doesn't make sense that New wouldn't just E-Strike for 7 unless she has Codex. There is no other single card that New could have that is more impactful than just E-Striking for 7. We don't block, we do get Codexed, and we are going to get to put a CNC into our arsenal after we take this Leave No Witnesses. But then our turn just ends, and that's pretty bad, honestly. That is definitely suboptimal. I would rather be threatening New's arsenal. Our Flesh Bag here would have gotten 5 points of value on defense. It also then would have generated 7 points of value on offense. So big mistake not blocking with Flesh Bag. I understand why I would want to save it for the late game, but not using it now is a big miss, in my opinion. New pitching a blue to break a silver, then opening, following with Mistblade tells me 2 things. One is that New very likely has a blue heavy hand, that she was just looking for something red to be able to threaten damage with. It also tells me that she could have levels of enlightenment, and either way, I don't want this Mistblade to hit. Mistblade hitting followed by levels of enlightenment is a gross combo that New is capable of. But even if it isn't levels, even if it's surgical extraction or prognosis or bonds of agony, it getting +1 and go again is really bad. So I want to block this with Scab Skins. And considering the power of Scale Peeler and what that does for my ability to protect against a disruptive turn when I'm trying to set up Blood Rush, actually has me wanting to block Mistblade more often when I think that I can put New on having a blue heavy hand. You know, she plays Rowdy Locals from Arsenal, and so here Rowdy Locals just being 2 with no Go Again is a lot better for us than it being 3 with Go Again. We even have Beast Within in hand. We don't have to block the Rowdy Locals. We can just let it hit, and then we stay at 5 cards. New does have the Transcend, so we are going to keep this Assault and Battery. We want multiple blues to pay for our turn. Well, we want a blue to pay for our turn, but because we're going to discard to the Rowdy Locals, we want to keep Beast Within. I would be happy to banish Beast Within if we weren't going to have the opportunity to discard it, but because it's going to replace itself, we want to banish something else. We want to keep our Wild Ride so that we have action points, which means we're between Assault and Battery and Run Roughshod, and while Run Roughshod is a better card than Assault and Battery when we are playing it, it is a much worse card for New when she is playing it. Run Roughshod just doesn't function for New unless she has discarded that turn. So off of Rowdy Locals with Go Again, she could play it, or off of a Wrecker Rump that she played from our banish, she could play it, but most of the time it is just a dead card for New. We draw into another blue. This is a pretty easy line. We're just going to Wild Ride, pitching Agile Windup. Unfortunately, discarding a red. Would have been nice to have this Wild Ride because we would get to follow the yellow Wild Ride with Tunic CNC Arsenal red Wild Ride for our next turn. But in this case, we do get to 5-3-6, which is nice, and we made a Might on the back end, so we are set up pretty well. Unfortunately, New has the D-React from Arsenal, so CNC is just damage. New, really good at having D-Reacts, and you'll see as this game goes on, she's really good at having D-Reacts when she needs them. We do put her at a life deficit, and we're doing pretty well. Our first appearance of newcomer No Fear. We're going to see what that can do for us this game. New pitches Cosmic Awakening to break silver, breaks another silver, so still looking at those blue heavy hands. But Levels of Enlightenment, of course, being a very balanced card. A blue with the power of a red, always fun to see. We're not going to block this, it is just damage, and we would like to play Blood Rush Bellow this turn, which means that we are looking to hold No Fear for when we can get some more value out of it. Second levels, of course. It seems reasonable that New would have so far a 3-card 10 that drew 2 cards. We're going to let this one go too. No reason to block it. Siren's Call is going to get punished at this point, and here No Fear really shining, as we can respond to the Siren's Call by banishing our 2 blues so that New doesn't have anything to take. We also prevent 4 damage from the Levels of Enlightenment. So really, No Fear showing its stuff so far. Definitely solid play. New does not disrupt our Blood Rush turn, and she does not replace the Siren's Call. So instead, she is just going to E-Strike for 7. We'll take that damage. We're not thrilled to go to 13, but we are happy to have this 3-card Blood Rush and have this Tunic available that maybe can get some value for us this turn. Big damage spike from New, though. I mean, the fact that she can put that turn together is just wild to me. Levels of Enlightenment is a fair and balanced card. We draw really well off of the Blood Rush. This is an ideal 3-card Blood Rush. It lets us use both cards in our hand, use all of our resources, work a Mandible Claw into the turn. Doesn't give us an opportunity to use our Tunic, though well, it means we'll have it for next turn, presumably. We are just going to Mandible Claw Bearfangs. If New had an Arsenal, we could Mandible Claw Send Packing, which would be a really solid line. But because we have Bearfangs, we push an extra point of damage and we get to save our Spring Tunic. So big damage coming out of us. Definitely the ideal 3-card Blood Rush. Bearfangs even hits. going to send 9 points of damage, put new down to 8. We still are looking really good on our armor. Here we've got a persuasive prognosis, and I believe at this point, and if you've been tracking, you can tell me, I believe at this point that New has either played or blocked with 2 Justinics and pitched the first one. I'm pretty sure that we've seen 2 Justinics out of New, but I cannot guarantee it because, at least in this replay, I'm not going to check New's graveyard because I'm an excellent broadcaster and commentator. So, if we are concerned about New having a reaction, we're going to block with armor. But the question is, what reaction does New have? If we can put New on definitively not having Justinic, then the line here is block with Fleshbag Bonebreaker, banish a card from New's hand. At this point, the only reaction that New could have is that would buff the power of Prognosis are Venomous Bite or Hiss. And without a blue to pitch for Venomous Bite, the most that either reaction could do is +3. So if we block Prognosis for 4, there is no way that it can hit. The problem is, if we don't know whether New still has Justinic, and we block with Fleshbag and Bonebreaker, it still might not be enough. And if we've just put 4 points of armor in front of Prognosis, then it gets put up to 6, then we get hit by the Prognosis effect anyway. So kind of a tough spot to be in without knowing for sure whether New still has a copy of Justinic, but I am going to hedge on her not having the reaction, and we'll just block with Fleshbag here. Pay attention to what this card in New's arsenal is, because as you'll see, we were 50% to not get blown out here. We were 50% to just keep this 4-card hand and feel really good about it. Losing the Wild Ride is probably our worst case scenario, because had we lost either of these other 2 cards, we could have played Wild Ride, pitch a blue, and then have our Tunic for a 2-card follow-up. That being the case that we don't have the Wild Ride, I actually am leaning towards maybe rolling Scabs here. I don't think this is the hand for it, because we can Bare Fangs, pitch blue, and arsenal whatever's left. So we do get to use 3 cards here without the second action point. But something to keep in mind as this game goes on, this is the first turn that we could have really gotten value out of Scabskins. And as you'll see, my reluctance to roll Scabs is going to cause us some issue. Mistblade, easy 1 armor block with Scabskins. Art of Desire, something to think about. And so this was the other card in New's hand when we flashback, 50% to just win the game. If we get to throw an extra 8 points of damage at New because we led with a Wild Ride and got to follow up with a Swing Big, we're in incredible shape. So I don't feel bad about the flashback there. I do feel bad not knowing the number of Justinics in New's graveyard, because had we been able to put her on Venomous Bite or Hiss definitively, again, we just win the game. This Art of Desire is something I feel okay about blocking. If New has the Hiss Venomous Bite follow-up, then we get blown out a little bit. But if she doesn't, or if she just transcends, then covering this block is fine. I just don't want it to hit, and I want to at least make New have the reaction to make Art of Desire hit. No reaction from New. So we have choices to make. This is turn number 2 where we could roll Scabs and maybe have it be okay. It is also the second turn where rolling Scabs, or rather we're not rolling Scabs, doesn't really cost us anything, because we can just E-strike for 6 go again by bottoming yellow Bare Fangs, then play red Bare Fangs to attack for 8 and make a Might. Regardless, this turn does open with E-strike go again, and at that point we can decide how risky we feel with Scabskins. New gives us 1 card, goes down to 5. So if we roll scabs here, we get to, and we hit 4, 5, or 6, we get to swing big Bear Fangs, which is just incredible. But even if we are just Bear Fangsing, we're making New give us at least 2 cards to survive. That isn't true. She could give us 1 card and Mask of Recurring Nightmares and go down to 2. That said, I'm fine with it. Very happy to get Mask while we're still at 11. You know me, I'm a very cautious KO player. I'm never one to roll scabs unless I absolutely have to. But the fact that our Tunic has been on 3 for the last 5 turns is really making me feel like I should be rolling scabs here. I would like to just put this game away. And New's being very unkind by not letting us keep our wild rides. Another situation where, well, let's see, am I going to check her graveyard? Would really love to know how many Justin X we've seen from New so far. We know that she has not drawn back into Justin Nick number 1 that was pitched on her turn. Okay, here we go. We have in fact seen no Justin X, so alright, suddenly all of my blocking decisions seem much better. We can decide if we want to play around Justin X, so New could easily still have Hiss Venomous Bite. She could have Justin X, she could have a card to transcend with. There are a ton of options for what New could have, and we just need to decide what our best line is, and I think our best line is covering really the worst case, which is that New has Justinic and can pitch to a Rousing Wave. And playing for the worst case means blocking 7. We're blocking with CNC, Pack Call, Bonebreaker. I want to get my Might. I want my Swing Big to attack for 10. Attacking for 10 if New stays at 1. Attacking for 10 means that New needs to give us 4 cards or have the defense reaction. And if she has the defense reaction, she's giving us 3 cards. If New's giving me 3 cards and I'm still somewhere above 5 life, I feel fantastic. So we're going to block with CNC Bonebreaker. If New does have a way to push Bonds over the top, either she takes our Pack Call and my line is Tunic, pitch Swing Big to play Swing Big, or she takes Swing Big and my line is pitch Pack Call to play Swing Big. So blocking with CNC, Pack Call, and Bonebreaker puts me in a position to just kill her. It also puts New in a position where she needs to have multiple things to do. So if New has, say, Justinic Transcend Instant, she cannot play Justinic and use Mask of Recurring Nightmares. The Bonds won't get there. If she has Transcend Instant or any blue and Hiss, she can't get there because Hiss bumps Bonds up to 4. No, that isn't true. Hiss does get there because she would have a Rousing Wave. 7 makes her have a more specific number of cards. You know what? I don't know why I'm blocking 7. It's because I can afford to. It's because I have a turn no matter what. So in the worst case, we just prevent some damage and still get to Swing Big. In the best case, New just doesn't really do anything and then passes the turn. So she does have the Transcend Instant. She does have the Chi at this point. That Chi getting put to Undertow Stilettos, and Slither comes out. So we're going to see what New's follow-up is, if she has a way to push this over the top. So far, no. So with 2 floating resources and a card in hand, I'm kind of putting her on Codex again. So the question is, does she Codex CNC? Or does she Dagger Codex? So here we have Dagger. Our question is, do we block the Dagger? We cannot easily do it with armor unless we want to give up our Tunic, and I don't think I'm there. If we block around, well, it depends on what we think the follow-up is, right? So if we think it's Dagger Codex, we don't want to block the Dagger. If we think it's Dagger Prognosis, then we still don't want to block the dagger because we'll just block whatever the follow-up is. So we're going to let the dagger hit. There's no one card play that New has that makes me think, oh, can't let this hit. She doesn't have a resource for levels. If the follow-up is Rowdy Locals, New doesn't have a card to discard to Rowdy Locals, so we don't have to discard to it. We're going to let the dagger hit. We would rather save any potential blocks for the next thing that New does, the follow-up to the Mistblade. So we're going to take one. Supposedly. Maybe. We'll check her graveyard again. Alright, now we're going to take one. And she's got the Codex. She grabs Persuasive Prognosis, which I think is probably her best play. She gets to muck with our hand. She gains life. At least from our side of the board, Leave No Witnesses is a worse card for her to grab because we can afford to give 4 life, lose our arsenal, and then swing big for 10. At this point, we are impacted by the frailty, and we care that New is gaining life. So we could just play super risky, let this Prognosis hit, hope that New gets a yellow off the top. If New gets a yellow off the top, she gains 1 life, goes up to 2. We again have the option to roll scabs and double swing big. At minimum, we swing big for 10. But if New hits a red or a blue, we still have a playable hand, but New gains an extra life. And I don't want New to gain life. So I'm going to block the Prognosis with a swing big, give New 1 life rather than 2, and I still get to swing big for 9 from Arsenal. New will be at 2, so suddenly her blocks are much more forgiving, but we are still throwing 9 points of damage at a hero sitting at 2 to our 10. So we're still in a fine spot this game. Of course, when your opponent always has the D-React, suddenly your 9 points of damage looks a lot worse, and we are even giving New a Quicken, which has the potential to really come back to bite us. I don't think we made the wrong play, I just think it was a New drew very well. She had the D-React at the perfect time, and she very correctly grabbed Prognosis with the Codex rather than Leave No Witnesses. That is very smart from New's perspective. Here, we've got another Prognosis. We could cover this with Tunic and try to play around any sort of reactions. I would like to keep the Tunic. I would like to play with Tunic at some point. And if we block with Clash of Might, we make a Might. If New keeps an Arsenal, our Send Packing attacks for 7. New still doesn't have armor. And the breakpoint on 7 looks really good. So I am leaning towards blocking with Clash of Might rather than Tunic. I think that it's fine to block with Tunic, though I do think too, the issue with blocking with Tunic is now a Rousing Wave is on, and I want to save this No Fear for the last minute. I mean, if nothing else, if New's turn just ends, we get to Send Packing for 7 Arsenal No Fear, and the Arsenal is exactly where I want No Fear. It's the best place for it. So if we block with Tunic and New just breaks a Rousing Wave, now we need to use No Fear to make sure that Prognosis doesn't hit, and I don't like that. Here we are putting New on having something. So she transcends, she plays pitches to the hero power, and that's all fine. Here we have just a Nick number 1, and that is going to put Prognosis up to 6. We are glad that we saved the No Fear because now we get to play it. We are going to make a mistake with the No Fear. It won't come back to punish us, but we are going to talk about it, which is that we should not banish blue Agile Windup with No Fear when New has used her hero power. I'm going to ask to undo just based on where the game has gone. It won't matter, but New playing Pack Call instead of Windup doesn't punish us for it. The interaction is that New's hero power says that she can play your face-up blues from Banish. No Fear says banish your hand face up. So if we banish blue Windup with No Fear, New can play that from our banish with her hero power, and when we get our cards back at the end of the turn, the blue doesn't come with it. So banishing the Windup there actually hurts us. It only hurts us. Because we were already covering 3, No Fear covers 2, and any additional card we banish covers 1, we can cover the 6 from Prognosis with No Fear and our Send Packing. We didn't need to have banished our Windup as well. So it doesn't punish us, but it could have. And that is something to consider. Sometimes you are going to have to take that chance that your opponent just doesn't know the interaction, but this wasn't the time to do it. Send Packing for 7 gets 2 cards from New. Ideally, you would be dealing an extra point of damage, but when your opponent always has the D-React, you do just get blocked out entirely. That said, New is at 3 with a 2-card hand, so we're still feeling fine about this game. We are in a decent position, and as we can see, New has played out all of her D-Reacts. And she does just pass the turn. This is situation number 3, where we could have rolled Scabs. And actually, are we going to roll Scabs here? Yeah, okay, here is where we roll Scabs. Yes, so this is situation number 3 when we should roll Scabs. This is also a situation where rolling Scabs actually prevents us from taking an intellect penalty. If we did not want to roll, what we could do with this hand is have discarded Mighty Windup at the end of our opponent's turn, make a Might, then use Tunic and Clash of Might to play either Pack Hunt or Bare Fangs and Arsenal the second one. But it is time that we put on our big boy pants, roll Scabs, and we get rewarded with a 6. So, 3rd time's the charm. We finally got to rolling Scabs to try to win the game. At this point, the line is fairly simple. We want to lead with Pack Hunt. If we play Bare Fangs, pitching Mighty Windup, there is a decent chance that we draw a blue and discard a red, and then we get to claw 2 for 6. But there is also a chance that we don't do that. We turn a red into a red, we solve a floating resource, we potentially discarded Pack Hunt, and I really want to lead with Pack Hunt because when I have Go Again or multiple action points, Pack Hunt is a really good way to start a turn. Essentially, we do the claw damage by taking a card out of New's hand, but New doesn't have control over what that card is. So, maybe New had a D-React somehow. We've already seen 3 of them, 6 of them, but maybe she had a D-React somehow, and now she can't block with it. So effectively, Intimidate does the job of Claw, but your opponent doesn't get to sculpt what their hand looks like after blocks. So we Pack Hunt for 6. At this point, we'll use Tunic to play Bare Fangs. We get to set a card into Arsenal. If we had discarded a red and drawn a blue, and New happened to have more D-Reacts, then we get to Mandible Claw after the Bare Fangs. The Bare Fangs here is going to be enough to put it away, but this is the sequencing I want to see when I have multiple action points. Prognosis in hand, we see the Justinic in Arsenal, so we did just barely get there. If we were not able to take New off of 2 cards, then we are probably dead. We would have blocked the Prognosis playing around Justinic, but New then having Justinic deals us 3 damage, we lose a card from hand. It's potentially very bad. So we do manage to get there at the end, putting it away with Scabskins. Notably, we could have gotten there earlier had we rolled Scabskins more aggressively, but because we won, obviously all of our decisions were unquestionably correct. Not blocking with Fleshbag very early on turn 4 was incorrect. We should have done it. I like saving my Fleshbag. I like getting value from it late when I'm trying to protect something worth protecting. the hand that we had was fine when we didn't block with Fleshbag and got Codexed. Fleshbag would have gotten insane value had we gotten to play that Command and Conquer for 7, and instead we had to just pass the turn. The Fleshbag, when we did use it, had a 50% chance to get us very good value, but the turn that we chose not to use it was 100% to get us value, and sometimes that is the value estimation you are doing with your Fleshbags, is how much value will this get me and how guaranteed am I to get that value. So that's my big takeaway. Let me know in the comments if you saw opportunities to use Tunic, because during the game and even in the review, I swear we did not see chances to use Tunic just based on how variants went for us. I hope this video taught you something. I hope you enjoyed it. If so, be sure to assault and batter that like button. For any comments, questions, or feedback, my comments are open. If you have not already done so, please consider a YouTube subscription. It's the best free way to support me. I have a Patreon, I have a Twitter. Those links are in the video description. And catch me next time on the next installment of Daily FaB Gameplay. Until then, take care.